Do 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 do. All right.
All right. I Wait a second. All right. Hello, everyone who's joined. We're just waiting for the quad to actually ping in main so that people actually see this video. So we'll get started whatever that. All right. Let's see how many people are watching. Uh, let's give it a minute after the ping. All right, everyone. I think we're good to get started. So welcome everyone to the results show for the March 2021 state election for ModelUSGov. I am one of your hosts, Hurricane, and joining me, my co-host APG, along with representatives for the two major parties. So that is Flam for the Republican Party and Goog for the Democratic Party. Now, both of them are candidates for governor and will get results for all the races as the night goes on. We'll be going first through the state legislatures, going in order from east to west, followed by the executive offices. So that means first we'll be starting in the Atlantic Commonwealth, followed by Greater Appalachia, followed by Dixie, by Superior, and finally by Fremont. Hi everyone, can you guys just introduce yourself? APG, go ahead.
How do everybody? I am APG, as always, your wonderful co-host here with the color commentary. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Party leaders, we'll start with Flam first.
Yes, so I am Minority Leader Flam, representative from Dixie's 2nd Congressional District. Really excited to be here tonight. Excited to see some results. I think the overarching preview here, what we're looking for on our side is obviously going into this, the numbers didn't look great for the Republican Party. And so really we're looking to prevent the liberals, the left-wing coalition, from getting a supermajority in any states, though we think that'll be hard. But if we can keep it to 4 states without a supermajority, where we win 3 seats in the assembly, we'll consider that a win. And every single governor race was an uphill battle. So if we come out with 2, then that's a victory. So that's really what we're looking for tonight, and we think we have a shot to accomplish those goals.
Goo, you want to go next?
I am Goog. I'm the chairman of the Democratic Party, and we're looking to win. That's it.
All right. Thank you, APG, and thank you, party leaders. Let's first start off with the legislative race in the Atlantic Commonwealth. Of course, in Atlantic, we have our polls here, and as you can see on the sidebar, we've already got like early results coming in for all the executive races. You can keep track of the sidebar, but keep in mind, results are coming in rural areas first, then the urban, and we're going from east to west. So congressional districts further east will get more results earlier on. But in terms of the assembly polling, as you can see here, the Democratic Socialist Party is on 60%, while the Republicans are on 40%, according to the Quinnipiac exit poll. While the 2 independent candidates are both polling at essentially 0, with former Christian Cooperative leader PGF and civic independent candidate Gammon the Red both trailing very hard. It's going to be very hard for them to get past the threshold. Do we, party leaders, just very quickly right now, do you guys think there's a chance? What are we seeing here? Is this going to be a supermajority or just a majority? Let's start with you, Flam.
It's very close to that line, as I understand it. Roughly in the 37 to 38% area is really where we need to hit our mark to make sure that we get 3 assembly seats. And the polls are telling us that that's about where we stand. We do think that we ran a good campaign in Atlantic. And so, yes, I think we'll win the 3 seats solidly. Though, of course, at the end of the day, the Democrats will have the majority.
All right, thank you. Goog?
Well, these are good-looking polls, and we have a majority in the bag, I think. And, it would be awesome if we got a supermajority, but I'm going to stay humble. We're just going to keep a majority.
All right, well, let's check in with the results. So in Atlantic, we actually, in fact, have 5 seats for the Democratic Party at 59.9%, because, as it turns out, PGF, with 3.6%, has failed to cross the threshold, which means his votes have been redistributed, and they have, in fact, allowed the Democrats to slightly pass over the margin for a 5-2 majority, which will make governing in Atlantic very difficult for incumbent Republican Governor House on Fire with a Democratic supermajority. APG, any analysis?
Yeah, this sucks. If I'm in the Republican Party right now, you have somebody who really probably shouldn't have gotten that percentage of the vote, especially if it's on the verge of giving the Democrats a supermajority versus a simple majority. And yeah, that is just absolutely devastating to see. And let's hope, if you're a Republican, that this is doesn't continue throughout the rest of the states with independent candidates running.
All right. Thank you. Please, we'll be checking. Before we go on to Chesapeake, how about you guys give us expectations for just all the races in Chesapeake real quick, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, so I think that Chesapeake has been very disappointing for the Republicans here recently. I do think we've got an outside chance at taking the governor's mansion. Though, of course, it really, the polls started terrible, and somehow the final polls seem to look like the race maybe almost tied. I'm a little pessimistic on that. I think that poll is an outlier, and I don't expect Brand to win, but I do think just making it that close is a good thing. But otherwise, I think that's a supermajority Dem state that's going to have a Democratic governor, a Democratic lieutenant governor, and we'll just have to do what we can to flip the assembly in 3 months' time, because I think it's pretty much a lost cause for this cycle.
Chesapeake, it's going to be probably another great state for us. The assembly polls are almost as good as they were in Atlantic, so hopefully we can get that supermajority. For the governor race, I think that Goog started off with a pretty nice majority, but his campaign was pretty terrible, and now it's tied. And so, it's a toss-up. Don't know who's going to win.
Thank you, everyone. Now let's go to the results. Let's first start with the exit polls. And apologies, I meant Greater Appalachia, not Chesapeake. But here you see according to the exit poll, it's neck and neck between challengers Googmaster for the DLP and Brand for the Republican Party, with incumbent independent Green Sidakra trailing far behind at 12%. Meanwhile, for lieutenant governor, incumbent Democrat Demarius is on 61%, far ahead of his Republican and challengers. And finally, for the assembly polls, you can clearly see here that the DLP is on 68%, which is far above the threshold for 5 seats, although some ways off from 6 seats. So let's check in quickly on the legislative results. And perhaps to no one's surprise here, the DLP has come out on top with 5 seats on 67% of the vote, giving them a net 2 seats over the current assembly. Meanwhile, the Republicans have fallen down to 2 seats, giving the eventual winner of this election, of the gubernatorial election, whoever it is, a supermajority for the Democrats to work with. And now that we have seen this, and as you can see, we've already seen some results coming in on the sidebar for the executive races. We're still early on, but right now, the Republicans have a strong lead in every single state, although the margins are decreasing in some of these states. APG, any analysis for Greater Appalachia?
Not particularly. I think you sort of said it best. Is that I don't think anybody was really expecting sort of a great comeback, especially after those exit polls in the last sort of cycle. You know, I really don't know what else to say here besides I think everybody's expectations were met, good, bad, or indifferent. They were just met.
Indeed, they were. Party leaders, we're now going on to Dixie. Let's go with the exit polls first. Now, on the exit polls for governor, Democrat Triplion's 18 is on 38, while Republican Flem is on 32, and Civic Cry Defiance is on 30. For Lieutenant Governor, John G. Roberts Jr. for the Democrats is on 51, while the Heck is on 45 for the GOP, and Attorney General Space D 2169 is on 4% as an independent. Finally, in the Assembly, Democrats are on 42, Republicans are on 38, and Civics are on 20. Expectations.
Well, obviously, I think that my chances are pretty good despite the polls. We ran a fantastic campaign. And unlike my opponents, both Cry and Tripp, who decided to ignore the vast majority of the rural precincts in Dixie, we made an effort to get out and get in front of every type of Dixian out there. And we really think that and the message that we were bringing resonated, and that we've got a great shot. And I think I'm going to win. Unfortunately, at the lieutenant governor level, while I think Hetch ran a pretty solid campaign, he decided to employ the David Perdue debate strategy, and it didn't work too well for Senator Perdue, and I don't think it's going to work all that well for Hetch, and I think it's going to be close, but unfortunately, I do think that there's a good chance that he loses that race, which really was his to lose. As far as the assembly goes, we're probably going to wind up with 3 seats. I think that that's the most likely outcome. Outside chance to swing either direction, wind up with either 2 or potentially a majority. And this is really the only state where I think we have any shot at getting a majority in the assembly this cycle.
I think we're going to do well.
Thank you. So now let's quickly check in on Dixie's legislature. In this legislative race, as was expected, the Democrats are on 3 and the Republicans are on 3. The Republicans marginally win the popular vote, but it is a 3-3-1 assembly, as many people have predicted. The Civics are trailing at 24.8%, although given that the Civics are currently not in coalition with either major party, the way they fall will decide control of the Dixie legislature. APG, anything to add, or should we move on to Superior?
I'll be brief. I think this is looking good for the Republicans so far, picking up that extra seat. Is it a sign of things to come? I couldn't tell you. We'll just have to wait for results.
All right, thank you. Now we will go on to Superior. Let's go over the exit polls first. So in the Superior exit polls, Citizen Baines for the Democrats is trying to win this race. He is ending off at the end of day 5 with 54% to Senator DDYT's 46%. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor is less close with Democrat President Due on 59 and Republican Based Maddie on 41. Party leaders, expectations going into Superior.
Yeah, I think that the polls in Superior have been far off. I know we don't have the best history here, but I think that all of the races are going to be much closer than the polls are suggesting. I think that we have a shot at the governorship. I think we have a shot at the lieutenant governorship. And I think that we'll probably don't have a shot for a majority in the assembly, but I think that we'll be sitting solidly with 3 members preventing that supermajority.
Goog, any thoughts? All right, if not, let's go look at the legislature. As you guys may remember, in the day zero polls, the Democrats were on the brink of a supermajority here. Let's see if they keep that. And this is the exit poll. Let's move on to the results. And they fall a bit short, in fact, 58%, giving the Democrats 4 seats, while the Republicans on 40% have 3 seats, and independent model ELIT has 1.3%, which means that this is a 4-3 legislature. No party will be able to single-handedly override vetoes or pass a constitution. APG, any thoughts?
So far, this is looking good for Flam's prediction that the polls might seem off in Lincoln. Picking up 3 seats for the Republican Party is certainly a plus tonight, no matter how you look at it.
Indeed. And finally, let's go on to Fremont. Let's look at the exit polls in Fremont. In the Fremont exit polls, the Democrats are on 45, the Republicans are on 31, and the Greens are on 24, which means we might be looking at either a 3-3-1, a 3-2-2, or a 4-2-1 assembly. Party leaders, what do we think?
I think this is the most difficult one to predict, really. There's just too much at play here, and I don't know how much we can trust the polls. I do, if I had to guess, I would say that this would wind up being a 3-3-1 split. I do think that the Green Party is gonna slightly underperform their polling, and that the GOP will gain from that, and that the Democrats won't be able to get to the threshold to get a majority. So I am predicting a 3-3-1, though I suspect that the Greens will be coalitioning with the Democrats. So really, either way, I mean, as long as the GOP comes away with 3 seats, that's a win for us. It's something that we can build on in Fremont.
Thank you. Goog?
It looks like Goog is indisposed at the moment.
And so he is. So let's quickly go over, as you can see, sidebar, results are coming in very quickly for all the races. Although we are still waiting on some high population areas, both urban and rural in a lot of places. So these are not definitive results. Let's go first look at the Fremont State Legislature. In Fremont, the Democrats on 47.7% of the vote actually managed to win 4 seats because of wasted Green preferences, because they are on 20%, not enough for 2 seats, but far too much for 1 seat, which means the Republicans, despite having 31% of the vote, are on 2 seats. This means that Fremont has a 5-2 legislature, with the progressive side having 5, although this matters a lot less because, of course, Fremont requires a 6/7 supermajority to amend the Constitution. And so we can look at gubernatorial races. First, let's start off in Greater Appalachia. And in Greater Appalachia, we can confirm now that Democratic candidate Googmaster has in fact won the governorship with 48% of the vote to Bran of Raisin's 39, and incumbent governor Sidakris 12%. Meanwhile, in the much less contested lieutenant governor race, Damaris Minetti, the incumbent Democratic lieutenant governor, has won 63-37 against Grigidus for the Republicans. APG, what do you make of this?
I think what's telling here is the sort of comeback from Bran of Raisin and CDOC. Goog did run a very good campaign and sort of came in as the favorite, but that lead got chipped away throughout the campaign. So had they come in with a little more prep time, I think they could have done something here, which is just devastating.
Thank you, APG. Let's look at the map. Do you have anything to add based on this map?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me take a little looky loo here. As you can see, sort of high GOP turnouts in areas like Chesapeake 3, excuse me, Greater Appalachia 3. But Goog really sort of had everybody else beat turnout wise throughout the rest of the state. So, you know, there was the ability here for a GOP comeback if there was more prep time, but you know, the campaigns can't only be prep time.
All right. Thank you. Let's just go through all the results, and then we'll get some analysis afterwards and some reactions from leaders. So now that Greater Appalachia has shown Democrats winning these offices, let's move on to Dixie. And in the southern state, we can clearly see, despite a very competitive three-way race that saw a lot of fluctuation in the polls, Tripolion's 18 for the Democrats has come out on top, 37%, while both other candidates are on 31. So this was an extremely close three-way race. Meanwhile, for the lieutenant governorship, John G. Roberts is on 50, while the Heck is on 46. Of course, the remaining 4% belongs to independent space dude 2169. APG, thoughts on this one?
Definitely a surprise here, and I think this sort of shows that had the Republicans and the Civics decided to perhaps coalition, there might have been an upset here as far as the governor race is concerned. Again, this is sort of the theme so far with the GOP governor races is prep time. If there was more work put in before actual campaigning took place, I think we could have seen some very different results tonight. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
All right, let's quickly look at the map to see if you have anything else to add. Lots of a very multicolored map here, huh?
Yeah, and something interesting here is that you're looking at sort of the areas where Tripp won, and he won just about all four of Dixie's congressional districts. The only one he didn't win was the fourth district, which, as you see, sort of has a lot of purple there for Cry Defiance. For somebody who won the governor race without winning one of the largest districts, I guess that's a feat, but maybe something to watch out for in the future for any gubernatorial candidate. Make sure you keep an eye on Texas because that might screw you up in the future.
Thank you. And finally, let's go to Superior. Let's just quickly get through all our results. And I am not in the right tab. And in Superior, after a very close race, Democrat Citizen Baines has won 52 to 48. Now, this is much reduced from the margin at the start of the election, but it is a victory for the Democrats here. Meanwhile, the lieutenant governorship, which was never really in doubt, has President Dewey on nearly 60% of the vote, while the Republican-based Maddie is on 40. Let's quickly show the map here. APG, your analysis.
Again, Flam was right. The polls were much closer. Unfortunately, it just wasn't close enough to flip the race in favor of the Republicans this evening. And again, you see a similar theme as with Tripp. Baines is performing very well throughout almost the entire state. The only area he's not performing well is in the fourth district, which is absolutely almost dominated by DDYT. But again, prep time. If there was a little bit more work done beforehand, again, I sound like a broken record, the results would have looked much different, I would imagine. So I guess if future candidates want a little tip, putting in the legwork throughout your term, whether it's in Congress and the Assembly and the governor's mansion, will end up serving you very well when it comes time for reelection.
All right. Thank you. Let's just quickly see the summary. I believe we have that. We probably have that. Bit of lag. All right, there we go. Let's just, you can see here the breakdown that shows which side has the governor and which party has the legislative majority. Party leaders, let's get your thoughts on everything that's just happened. Let's start with you, Flam. What do these results for the Republican Party, and where are you moving forward?
Well, this is definitely not what we were hoping for. Again, we were hoping to at least win one or two governor's mansions. Obviously, I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to pull it out against Tripp, despite what seemed like an ample opportunity to do so. And of course, giving up effectively 3 supermajorities across the country is not good. This was not a good showing for the Republican Party. And we're just going to have to regroup and rethink the way that we're doing things. And hopefully we'll be back both in the federal midterms and in 3 months for the next state elections to just have a better showing.
What about on the Democratic side? What do we make of these results? What do these show? What does it show about this election, and what does it mean going forward into midterms?
Also, everyone, hi, Zippy's here now. I think this clearly shows that the American people are tired of the Ninja administration. They are tired of the stagnated and split Senate, and they want the real progressive change that's been coming from the House and in their state legislatures. And I would not like to be the Republicans right now. They're facing off against an insurgent Democratic Party that now controls all but one governor's mansion, and basically, if we something along the civics, one state legislature. For everything, America has seen that the Democrats are willing to work for them while the Republicans aren't working for them. However, we wish big congratulations to all of our winners tonight and commiserations to all the losers. Yeah.
All right. Goog, do you have anything to add, or?
Okay. I'll be real with you. This is kind of Poggers champ. This is kind of a Pog. And it's kind of awesome. That's all I gotta say. It's kind of Pog. The American people are Pog.
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Before we go, we have some announcements. First announcement, there's going to be an election post-mortem coming fairly soon. APG, do you have a timeline on that, or?
Sometime this weekend. I'm not sure exactly what day it'll be, but it will be out eventually. Trademark.
Thank you, and as always, the the graphics dump will be in the election channel. And final announcement: the ModelUSGov wiki exists. You can see the URL on your screen right now, and we're going to be making an announcement fairly soon. But this is the resource, the official resource for election results and for a variety of things, as well as personal pages. So we'll soon be announcing the opportunity to create your own personal wiki page so that people can look up information about your persona. And we'll have a lot more announcements about that coming up soon. But the website is live, and please feel free to check it out. We have information about states, about elections, about parties, and just about, the simulation's history altogether. That being said, we are now at the end of our elections show. Hopefully we kept it short enough to keep everyone's attention. Thank you to party leaders Goog, Zippy, and Flam for participating, and thank you to everyone for both your hard work during the campaign and during the term, as well as your participation in the election. And with
Can I make a quick announcement before we're done? I have calculated the winner of the election predictions. That's with 65.52%, which is not that big, but Polka has won the election predictions. Congratulations, Polka. Your prize, if there is a prize, is on its way.
Congratulations on winning a sense of pride and accomplishment. That being said, if there is nothing else, thank you everyone for tuning in, and that is all for our show tonight.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
God bless this
Thank you,
country.
everyone.